Hello and welcome to this edition of Daily Actives brought to you by Bootleg Macro. I am Dustin and we are looking at Rivian, RIVN or Rivian Automotive, which has been one of the hottest stocks in the entire market going back to what it looks like is the end of June. And the reason why I say that I know that was a hot moment was because that's when we got a full-on flip. Back on this day, on the 26th of June, what we were looking at was the price was blue with white lettering. You know what that means, boys and girls? It means it's 3 standard deviations below its 23-day average. But you know what happened very quickly? Essentially the next week, we saw this go from negative on a 1-day, 5-day, 15-day, 1 month, 3 month, and 6 month to completely flipping the script by the 30th of the month. Now we look on the 30th of June, we can see that it is now red lettering with a white background, which means it's now 3 standard deviations above its 23-day average, which is a significant change in just under a week for the company Rivian. Now, I don't know what the catalyst is. I know there was a big one. I know the market is in love with it. But when we look, what we've really seen here is that the prices continue to stay elevated, high, and going higher. Now, today was an up day, but the one thing that I will call out is that we did see volume kind of fall a little bit. When you see this volume here that we had for these 5 days with red lettering with the white background, of course, what does that mean? 3 standard deviations above its 23-day average of volume. Now, the volume has come back into its standard distribution, which is nice to see. The one thing that I will say, though, is that we would probably expect that we would see a little bit of sideways action. And what I'm going to point out here is around the volatility. And the reason why I'm going to say this is that the volatility is rising right now, but I bet the correlation is also rising with it. So that would mean that we would expect that it would continue to kind of go sideways, at least a little bit. It could have a pop, we'll find out. But what I'd love to see is that the 1-day, 5-day, 15-day, 1 month, 3 month, and 6 month rolling return have all gone positive together. Obviously, it was only 1 day for the negative return. We still have a go long in the short term, intermediate term, and longer term signals, as well as a bullish, bullish, and bullish, again, for short term, intermediate term, and longer term. Now, we're going to look at the rolling sentiment, which I know you don't know what this means, but this is going to be rolling sentiment. It's going to be a representation of the difference between the high and the low, the high and the close, based on a certain amount of time. Now, what we're going to be seeing here is that on the 2-day average, we're well above 60%, which we don't really want to see 60% to take a new position, but we do want to see it if we're expecting things to continue in that direction. We're above 66% on the 5-day rolling average and above 63% on the 10-day rolling average. Now, the thing that I will say is the most impressive to me right now is that the 10-day is currently at 70% and continues to essentially kind of oscillate around that 70. You're up at 74, 72, 70. So you might say that you're seeing a peak here, and especially even on this 23-day, it looks like we're starting to roll over a little bit. We went from 67 to 66 to 65. We may be seeing that our brighter days are behind us when it comes to Rivian, but that doesn't mean that things are necessarily going to change. When we look at this individual chart, we can see that we had 2 days back to back. We really didn't represent any supply or demand. We just essentially had an equal war in terms of who was doing most of the movement in the stock. Today was a little bit different. And why I say today was different was because it did open at 25.41. It did have a high of 26.26, but it did have a low of 23.71. So when you see that long wick there, I don't really pay attention to wicks, but that does at least tell me that demand came back and took over the rest of the day. We can look here at the daily sentiment indicator, same sort of thing. We can see that the sentiment is incredibly high. It's above 60%. The volume, well, this may not seem like a big deal. It did get higher today, and you want to see higher volume if you really believe in this move. Now, this is the volatility that we were pointing out earlier. It's at 6.8. We can see the correlation is also rising with it. So you'd expect aggressive moves right now. As long as the price correlation stays high and the volatility keeps rising, I don't see any reason why this is necessarily going to slow down. Now, you would expect that you'd get a little bit of a slowdown because if you look at this range, it has completely broken out. But that doesn't mean anything. If people want it to go higher, it will go higher. You just got to pay attention to how the market normally responds. So you may get an increased move up, a little bit of consolidation, and then a resumption of that bullish trend. But tell me what you think in the comments below. Are you long? Are you short? Do you like it? Do you love it? Is this even a good review? And before you go, do yourself a favor. Subscribe to the New High newsletter. It comes out Sundays at 9 a.m. just for you. I'll talk to you soon.